Look around. Everywhere these days, people are crying out for effective leadership. There's no mistaking it any longer. Men, especially leaders, are struggling, emasculated by imposed rules, stereotyping, and leadership models that are no longer working. There are many women who are doing a much better job at leadership than the men, and we need to recognize them. We need their help too. Welcome to W.E.L.L., the Women's Expressions on Leadership, Learning, and Liberty podcast show, and I'm its host, John Krotek. This is the show where women can help us men to be better men, more effective leaders. I'm really excited for this episode of Women's Expressions on Leadership, Learning, and Liberty. This is I'm not going to say you can't say old, can you? This is a friend of mine who I've worked with, a very good friend, the last 6 years on different projects. Her name is Leann Spofford. She is a creative. She is a compassionate person, extremely intelligent. She's been in the healthcare industry for over 25 years. She is extremely passionate. You'll find that out about wellness and physical health, mental health. And she takes a nature-based approach to people living their lifestyles, to her own lifestyle, but also how she integrates it in with leadership and creative ideas and marketing. Leann is a senior vice president of marketing and business development for Anovi Health is it the Gapin Institute?
Correct.
Gapin. Okay, I just don't want to mess that up. She's also the founder of Creative Content Connects, which is a very unique, what I would call a home style grassroots marketing agency. And she's also the founder of Nature's Beauty Heals, a nature immersion epigenetic retreat experience that helps people to blossom and identifies their skill sets. And it's kind of a mind, body, soul, physical integration retreat. And we're going to learn more about that. But what I love about Leann is she is very quick with visions and ideas. She can take complex marketing and complex branding content and turn it around to something that's palatable and where the messaging really stands tall. Like I said, she's helped me on a lot of stuff in the past and continues to help me just by being here on the show. Leann creates not just messaging, but she creates an immersive experience. So whatever company or service you have, it's a complete immersion when you work with Leann. She has that tendency to really do stuff that's off the cuff and innovative. Her mission is simple. She helps people, business, and nature prosper together. Like I said, that's a unique thing with nature. She is committed her life to building businesses who advance the human potential. They nurture nature, and she's all about human kindness. So, Leann, welcome to the show. We're going to learn a lot about you today, your background, all the cool things that you've done to get you to this point in your life. And I'm humbled and honored to have you here on the show. I thank you for your support and for your friendship over the years and all the great ideas, especially when you helped me with the Richard Branson piece, which I thought was cool. I just thank you for that and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here, and it's always good to chat with you, John.
Yes, well, thank you. Let's just get started, Leann. Tell us a little bit about, I know you have two brothers, and I know you grew up in the town my dad was from, Pittsburgh, PA. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about the home life that you grew up in.
Sure. So I grew up in Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania, Nowheresville, I like to say, like an hour outside of Pittsburgh, and a very simple, basic life. Mom and dad in the same household. My dad was a school teacher. In the summers, he would do construction work, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom until we were teenagers in high school. And so I came home from school. We had dinner almost the exact same time every day. Brothers, we were all very close in age, just 18, 19 months apart. I was the youngest. two brothers. So I was always kind of around boys. So I think that has an impact to some of what we're going to talk about here. And, a nice home life. Very little sheltered, I'd say, now looking back at it, right? Just a little sheltered to just staying in our small area of the world. And I also think that had like an impact on some things that I wanted to do later in life.
So would you say just a typical upbringing,
Typical upbringing, very American, basic, summer
hot,
vacations,
hot, yeah, awesome hot apple pie, high
yep,
school football games on the Fridays. And
yep.
yeah, well,
Every
that's good.
Sunday, every Sunday we'd go visit my grandparents, right? And there were two sets in the same town. So we'd go to the one house and maybe have like lunch and stay and visit and then have dinner at the other house. And that was pretty much every Sunday, which was after church. So, definite structure, different than how things are now.
Yeah, absolutely. So you had two older brothers, which is probably pretty cool at times. And other times, I don't know, maybe it bugged you. I had two older sisters, so it was kind of cool. And then there were times it bugged me. What was that like having two older brothers?
It's interesting because I used to tell people a lot of times, even though I was the youngest, sometimes I felt like I was the oldest because I was the one who was protecting my brother, being very observant of how people treated each other. And I would go in and stand up for him. I remember one time it was a kickball game and he didn't like that, but it was just wrong. I guess there was something rooted in me about just right and wrong, kindness. And I'd stand up, I didn't care if he was the older brother or the boy girl thing. I just didn't care. It was wrong. So I'd put myself in there and say, no, stop.
So it sounds to me like you were developing core values at a young age. I mean, you had like you just mentioned, that the families of today, a lot of them are broken families, and having that structure, it's something that we're missing these days, and I think that that's a huge benefit for you to have had that, especially when I've seen how you operate with your own kids. So that's pretty neat. So structure, kindness, core values, right and wrong. Tell
Definitely,
me.
I could see like with my dad, I observed a lot of good work ethic, right? Coal mining town, Pennsylvania, it just has that. And I definitely saw that with my dad. I mean, I had jobs already when I was 10 doing paper routes, right? So on your bicycle, rain or shine, delivering those newspapers, little things like stopping with an elderly woman, I remember, and when you'd have to collect the money, right, an envelope, and what was it, like $3.65, and it would take 30 minutes at one house, but it was because I could tell she just wanted somebody to talk to.
So that
And I
compassionate side was coming out already.
already coming out. Yeah, I could just tell, sense it. She was just lonely.
So that's pretty cool, Leann. So, let me ask you this, the nature side of it, and we're going to get a little bit more into nature as we get into your brand and the things that you do with nature. But where did the love of nature come in? Did you all do a lot of camping, or what was that
Yeah,
about?
I think a lot of that came from my dad. I remember when I was like 4 going out and picking blackberries and, taking the big steel buckets, going into the woods and collecting blackberries and eating them right there. Lots of hikes with my brothers, hikes with the neighborhood kids, and just, going out and staying out until till the lights, till it was dark and then you had to come in. And I love doing that. I remember having with kids in the neighborhood a log club, which was just a log across a creek, and we would have a metal tin. We'd put our dues money in there. We'd dig it into the dirt, go back and visit, sweep with branches, if you can imagine, to like kind
Oh
of make
yeah.
your home out there. And even like on Halloween, we would We would, we'd steal, yes, I'm putting that on video. We
Yeah.
would steal the
Statute
corn
of
from,
limitations here. Yeah.
we would steal corn, and do that with corning, which is what they did. That's not everywhere, but definitely outside a lot. And a lot came from my dad. Yes, we went camping as well. So a lot from my dad. He enjoyed outdoors, and so did my mom in a different way. But for whatever reason, I feel like a lot came from my dad.
Interesting. So a little bit of mischievousness in there for sure. I didn't, that's something I just learned. But I know after working with you for several years, that you do. Where does the innovative, creative, where do you get that? How do you tap into that? And I know that you're a problem solver, and I'm not joking. Those of you who are listening and watching the show, you can take a complex issue or a complex subject, and Leann has that. How do you do that? How does your mind work like that?
I mean, that I think I was just blessed and born with, but my environment exposed me to that. There was something in me whenever I went to college, and even when I went to college and it was in Amish country, right? It was just neat to see different things, different people. But I always knew I wanted to get out and see more, see bigger. Like I just somehow knew it existed and I wanted to experience it. So after college, I really wanted to go to California. I don't even, well, I do know what that came from. There was one girlfriend in high school, her sister went to LA, and at 17, I saved up all my money from waitressing and went on one visit to visit her. And I remember flying by myself. The first time I flew alone, and that was kind of a big deal then. Which you have to be confident enough traveling across the country. There weren't cell phones. I got there, nobody was there. She wasn't there. She was running late. And think about that. You can't just call somebody on the cell phone and say, "Hey, where are you?" You have to find them. And I'm in this big city. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm 17. And I even look back now as a mom and I'm like, "Mom, why'd you let me go? I can't believe you let me go like that." But she's like, "There was no stopping you. You just did." And so after I had that bite, that taste, after college, I knew I wanted to go to California. And so after college, I ended up moving to San Francisco. And that is what really opened what was already, I think, in me. But it was this world of people that I got put around in the whole .com world.
Yeah, I know you were a part of that, and it must have been pretty exciting, to take those creative energies and to go from small town Pennsylvania to one of the largest, probably the mecca at that time of the things that, innovation and computers and digital wizardry. And so it must have been exciting. What did you do when you first got there? So you were 20, 21 when you first got there.
I
Maybe
was
22.
24 because
Okay.
I took one job out of college at first selling Yellow Page advertising in Harrisburg. And then after that, and I had enough experience, which that felt to me like, hey, if I go out there and I have experience, it's going to be easier to get into something. And I didn't want to blow through all my money right away. So I knew I had to work. So I found a job at Blockbuster Video, believe it or not. And that was just so I wouldn't blow through all my cash and, be homeless out there until I found what I really wanted to do. And it took about 5 months interviewing, 4 or 5, I can't really remember. And there were a few companies that I was interested in. And it's one of those things where you kick yourself, but you don't, because it was your path. I remember I had 2 job offers. So one was with a company called Navigation Technologies. And I would have had to have, because of my skill sets in sales, I would have had to call all the different government offices and ask them for their maps and have to explain to them how, it's public property. I can get that, what we were going to do with it. And it just seemed boring. The other job was in healthcare technology, right? And it was distributing chemotherapy drugs to office-based practices, and it was using some technology with PICS systems to be more efficient. And I had some calling for healthcare in me. Maybe it was and interesting now, I kind of, with all where I've come now, it was more on the pharmaceutical end and in oncology. And I took that job over the other one because it was like $1,000 more, right? But do you know what that navigation technologies company was? That was the basis of GPS.
GPS. Oh, absolutely. I mean, right away when you
Like,
said that, yeah.
who knew? Who knew? You know, like, and I remember in the interview them telling me, but I'm young, I'm 24, like, yeah, we're funded by I don't know, it was one of the automotive companies, right? And I didn't even understand what funding meant then. I didn't understand venture capital. You know, I'm just big eyes, you know, what I think I want. But in the end, it was where I was supposed to be because of, you know, where I've now and stayed into healthcare technology all these times. But the key thing was the people that I was surrounded by. That network was magical.
You
It
know, it's
was,
amazing how the universe works like that. You know, I mean, those
yeah,
we make decisions and we get that we have a certain amount of control over some things, but there's also that unknown quality of life that seems to place us where we need to be.
mm-hmm,
Because I know that you're a big time into nature and health and epigenetics. You know, you taught me a little bit about it, but there you go. You found your network. And what do they
yeah,
call it nowadays? Well, the word tribe is so overplayed at times, but you found your peeps,
yeah,
you know.
I did.
So, and what was that experience like?
You know, it just felt comfortable right away. And you could see and feel the magic of the mix of people, the salesperson, the marketing. Although I started in sales and then I made a switch, that was just a gut feel that
Mhm.
I wasn't in my quite right place. And I spoke up about it. I was, you know, but the leadership there of these Stanford people, and I'll be honest, when I first started, the CEO there actually said, "Hey, David, you all have these Stanford, you know, Ivy League MBAs. I don't have that. Do I need to go back to school and get that?" And you know what he told me? No. He said, "You're already here. You're already doing it. Just keep doing what you're doing. You know, that's not needed at this point. Like, you have the skill set already. You have the networking. You just need to make it." And that group was very accepting that way. And we balanced each other out. We really
That's
balanced each other out with the unique personality mix.
that's kind of neat, you know, because we would call that what OJT, and that, you know, probably the best experience you can get is when you're in it. So whoever that person was gave you some really good advice. You know, what I'm getting already, so you're 24, 25, 26, and the things that have happened to you in your life, I get a certain feeling that you're good things happen to you. You know, it's almost like you attract that. And you know, I don't know. It's there's like this, what do they call that? Synchronicity, serendipity. Things are going pretty well for you. You know, you seem to you've fallen in with the right people. Things are going great. You're picking up OJT train, you know, on the job training, and you're having a blast. You know, how did you come back to the East? Why did you leave that? What happened?
Well, so we were there, and I was with my, at the time, fiance. We ended up getting married,
Mhm.
and you know, and he was in the you know, financial district, San Francisco, and we were both working a lot. We were just both right into our careers, and he was also heavily involved with rugby out there. And I have to say, the other thing that I did is, I guess, having that sheltered background when I got out there, I was a sponge. And I talked to everyone, and I opened my mind to just tons of different views on everything: religion, family, upbringing. There was one particular person, Elke, who opened my mind to things I had no idea about. And she had me read books. And that started to open, what I want to say, the woo side of me, and be exposed to some very deep philosophical thinking. And so anyways, you know, it
No,
was that whole,
good point. Curiosity. I'm starting to get it now. It's coming to me. I'm
Yeah.
channeling it, it's curiosity and inquisitiveness.
Well, it was like what I was always told. I was like, wait, that might not be. Explore this, hear other views. And I remember one time I was in a church of 1,000 people and we were supposed to be hypnotized. And I'm like, I don't believe that. No way. Sure enough, I got there and some things happened to me, and memories that I had totally forgotten about. I was like, wait, there's more to this. So I kept reading and I started really studying things that I was just not exposed to in Pennsylvania. So we were there 5 years. And
Mhm.
then my ex at the time got an opportunity to be in New Zealand. And to be honest, at this point, we were starting to have some marriage troubles. There were some red flags.
Mm.
And so we decided to go to New Zealand. And I thought, okay, I have 5 solid years of experience here. And I think maybe the one in Pennsylvania that felt good enough that I had that solid foundation. I could step away and then come back and not feel like I was off my career track. And I wanted, to give everything I could to trying to make the marriage work. And it was a great experience. We actually met very interesting people there that, again, it opened my mind to life in Australia. The people were from South Africa. So I started to get this worldly experience of how things are done differently, and in business and in life, in family, everything. So we were there for a year. And when it was time to leave New Zealand, we decided and looked at Florida because it was a lower cost of living. San Francisco was very expensive. And we were down in Florida for a year. And I again landed with a startup group of people and in this healthcare tech space. Um, and got bored. Florida was just too slow for me. And that same network of people came back together for another startup. And I said, I really want to
Yeah.
go back and do that. It's calling to me. In fact, I came back from one meeting in Florida and he's like, I see it all over you. You just have the bug. And that's when I really got to put with this one organization that was just flying so fast. This is when there was all this massive amounts of .com money, you know, millions and millions given to companies of like grow fast, do a lot, take these concepts that just have never existed and make them come to life. And I love that.
Yeah, I know you do. And that's, there you go. Now I know where you get the background from. We've never had conversations like this, but it seems again, like everything's going, there's always challenges in life, relationships and all those kinds of things. But I'm amazed at how the universe always presented to you things that were kind of in your wheelhouse or things that you were interested in. Do you think?
Yes, and a big lesson that I don't know if I learned it, I started to recognize it later. I'd say yes. I'd be scared, but I said yes.
So a certain amount of risk taking?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
overcoming fear. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, because it does make sense, and it's something that maybe more leaders have to be aware of. That risk taking is really overcoming fear. So I'm putting
Well,
together.
if you look at that dynamic too of what I just explained, the male female,
Right.
right? And when we went to New Zealand, like my ex, if you would say, he was more in the leadership role. He was at the helm. I was completely dependent on him. And that was a lot of trust to do that. Right. And then when we moved from Florida to back to California, it was a lot of trust in him with me that I was, that this was important to me. So there was give and take at that point, in that couple leadership, if you will, and in leading, especially in those younger years as a couple.
Perfect example of teamwork.
Yeah.
When you think about it, and then I know that you have children, and then it changed the dynamic even more, because you were a mother, but you were also working at the same time.
Well, at that point, I wasn't yet working,
Okay.
or I didn't have kids. I was working this startup, how startup was 24/7. My
Mhm.
energy was 100% there. And then we had some problems. So this is when it all changed. If you could say my luck changed, or just things changed.
A different
But
course.
we
Yeah.
had marriage trouble. I got laid off, and then I got pregnant, and it was all in a span of 3 months.
It's the universe, it's offering you these great challenges that because you're creative and innovative, you were being challenged in a different way. So, but you have three great kids, this is children later. So how did you manage that? What were the things you
Well,
drew?
it actually was really hard, right? Because I felt like my identity was stripped away whenever
Mhm.
I lost that job. The marriage trouble, so I felt like that identity was stripped away, and it just felt like my foundation was pulled out from under me. But it was a blessing in disguise, as I see that now. At the time, I didn't. I was crushed. And we moved to Florida because I no longer had the job there. We just kind of wanted out. All these .coms were shutting down. And I have to say, because this is a lot about leadership, you know what the number one lesson I learned out of that, and they had the movie on?
No, tell me.
A lot of those companies lost their vision because of the money that was given to them. So it was like, here's your funding, but hey, we really want you to partner with this company. And that took a lot of companies off their core vision of what they were trying to build and do for the money. And I believe that was why a lot of the startups started to fail, because they weren't following that core vision.
That's an interesting
So,
observation. Well, that's an interesting observation because money can be a good thing and money can be a bad thing, and it can knock you off your vision. That's pretty astute on your part. And gosh, maybe we should write something on that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like it was one of the .com lessons. I think that in that movie .com, they point that out a little bit. But we moved to Florida.
Hmm.
So now my full identity is wrapped around being a mom. And because we were having marriage trouble, I threw myself into that 100%. He went back to what he did a lot, which was traveling. And for the next 10 years, then I loved being a mom, and I gave everything to being a mom the way that I did the startup.
So commitment, dedication, loyalty, to your vision at that time to be a mom. And, it always comes back around with you, Leann, with just accepting what comes your way and using that creative side to turn, at that time you were thinking lemons into serious lemonade. And I'm not joking. You have great kids, and in the times that we spent together on a professional basis, I have seen you, the way you operate, with your kids. And that's extraordinary in and of itself, that a woman is is more than just what a lot of people think they might be, especially the guys. They're really multitasking to the extreme. And I always tell my wife, I can multitask, but I really can't. I might be able to do one thing or maybe two at a time, right? But she's always got multiple things. And I know, like with you juggling different accounts, you did it pretty well. And I was always trying to learn something from you when you used to do that. So
Yeah.
kudos to you. So now where you at? I know you've written 3 books. You've been involved in those projects. I know that you're big time into epigenetics. And I know that you're this, senior vice president for these health-oriented companies. Tell us about all that. I mean, it's a lot to talk about, but you've shifted now. The kids are a little bit older now. I know you've got a Marine, and so you're doing different things now, and you've been doing them for a while. So
Yeah. Well, I had, being a single mom and an ex that traveled all the time, I had to find a way to make um income that still allowed flexibility. So I took the skills I learned from, a $40 million budget and applied it to smaller businesses that didn't have a $40 million budget.
Yes.
And it let me do all that. And I somehow felt all of a sudden, you know what, this is my setup. I'm going to work when it's convenient for me. It may be that, 2 hours during the day when I have to take kids to 3 different schools, that's just what I'm going to do. But I will get your work done. It's going to be on my terms, though, my time. That's just how it is going to be. And if that doesn't work for you, well, I'll find another account. And I just kind of stood my ground about what I needed. And that felt very empowering. And that let me start kind of growing. So yeah, fast forward then. And
Okay.
I
So
got,
you adapted, and you
I
overcame,
adapted.
is what we would say in the service, right? But so you adapted and you're doing things on your own terms. And then this, you've done some amazing visuals with nature. I'll tell you, that takes a unique eye. And if you haven't seen Leann's work, it's out there. Maybe she can share some with you. But I don't know, there's something really unique about what you've done with that, with colorations and nature and the human aspect and the mechanical. You've done some really cool things.
Yeah, there was a creative outlet in me wanting to come out. So I started something just for fun. Really, it was a creative outlet for me, Nature's Beauty Project. And what I started seeing in my healing journey, so through my divorce, it was hard. And I'd spend a lot of time at nature by myself. I was sad I didn't have my kids when they were with my ex. And so I'd spend just lots of hours at the beach and read all these really deep books and healing books. And I just started to see color different. And it was really healing for me out in nature. So I would like see color, I would see texture, and I'd start matching it all. And then I would start to say, well, we as women have, a lot of clothes and colors that we're interested in and textures. And I just started to see that same inspiration from nature, right? You think of linen pants, you think of the same look and feel on driftwood. And I just started to observe this. And then I was like, wait, now it's in our homes too. And this is what we surround ourselves by. And I started piecing it together, and it was just very therapeutic. So fast forward to me just doing that for a while, and I started to say yes a lot. In fact, I used to have yes days with my kids. They used to be whatever you ask for, we're going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. And they loved it, right? They were young. They didn't overboard it, with like, buy me a Lamborghini, whatever. They were
Yeah.
little. But it was just, can we go to McDonald's, or can we get whatever, whatever, it was a yes. Can we go to Chick-fil-A? Yes. Right. And that just felt good too. It was building my own confidence up, my spirit, connecting with them. But then I started to adopt that to myself. So I said yes to learning aerial silks. And I actually said yes and pushed myself and got certified to teach it. And I was scared the first time I did it, hanging upside down from a tree, a banyan tree, downtown Sarasota with these 25-year-old girls who, they can do splits around me. And I felt like the old woman there, but I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I just want to do it. So I started to say yes to a lot of things. Said yes when they said, do you want to be part of this co-authored book? That led to another one. That led to getting a client in that business. That led to different clients in LA, big movie producer. And so saying yes just started to bring more yeses in the universe to me. And I would, trust me, I'd have periods where I'd be like, I'd say, you know what, I'm pulling back in again. I'm a little fearful. And then I'd come out of my shell, and then I'd go back in. And, I'd have periods of where I felt beat down a little bit. One was on my 50th birthday. And I had to walk away from every single client because the woman who I had partnered with had lost all integrity and she was not being truthful with the clients. So on my 50th birthday, instead of having some big hurrah, I called each and every one of them and said, I'm sorry, I can't work with you anymore. And here's why. And I just can't work in that scenario. And it's not right. Do you know every single client ended up coming back to me within a couple months?
That's awesome. And you know what's interesting? It's thank you for sharing that, because we hear a lot of things about the power of no. I think there's even a title of a book about that. And it kind of might, you know, it's a little bit out of context, maybe, but you know what? You've just the vision that you have about saying yes. I never looked at it like that. It does open doors. Like when you say yes to, and I don't think you were saying yes to everything,
Right.
but just having the positive attitude about the word yes. Yes, I can do that. Well, no, maybe I can't do that. But that, again, to me, is a way to overcome the doldrums of the word no. So, and there you go. There's a perfect example again, another example of Leann's life, where sometimes it looks like there's major lemons, but it's turned into something that's really tasty and sweet. And that's cool. You know, that's a great story of having your core values and living by them, and being courageous enough and brave enough to call people and tell them why you cannot do something. And it came
Yeah.
back and paid you back. So that's again how the
And it was
universe.
scary because
Yeah.
here I am, a single mom, and I just sent away all my income.
And then 60 days later, it starts trickling back in. So kudos to you for standing up for your core values, and kudos to the universe, which has a way of paying us back when we least expect it. So that's a great story. So you're not even on the rebound. You're like in the thick of it. I saw a picture recently where you on a Learjet somewhere for a workshop somewhere. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty neat. Leann's jet setting now. You know, how did that, what's going on there? Tell us about Galpin. Is that who that was with?
Well, that's Dr. Gapin. Yeah, Gapin Institute. So
Yeah.
I needed to create a marketing video. And yep, the universe ends up putting what you need in front of you. And we wanted to portray high achievers, entrepreneurs, that they're on the go and they need to get to peak performance, and optimal health and health optimization and precision health. What's possible? We actually call it high performance health. And we are, words are very powerful. We are owning that, just like there's other people have owned biohacking. We are owning high performance health. This is again one of those things I like to do, create things that aren't in existence yet. And yeah, so somebody loaned that jet for the filming. And of course I had fun with it, and that's part of what I do. I'm not going to sit there and be all business. So I got up there and, act as if, and the universe will bring it to you. So
Yeah, and it did. So here's what I've gleaned so far from Leann's story, from your story, and correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Leadership, structure, kindness, core values, work ethic, nature-based mentality, that we are one, an expanded worldview, an open-mindedness to other points of views, risk-taking to overcome fear, adaptability, and words. What have I missed?
intuition,
Okay.
listening to your gut, but you nailed it all, and you actually very summed that up very well. You do need to listen to your gut. And this, my most powerful book, was Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God. And it's not a religious book. I always tell people, do not let the title skew you or, keep you from reading it. But the core message of that book is to remember who you are. And that's a lot of what I've always liked to do. And that goes back to this lesson. Remember, I said that the companies got off their vision. And from marketing, you always need to have a vision, right? And a mission. So it's your vision and a mission, who you are and who you want to be. And that's really how I feel as a person. And I like to help pull that out of other people. Like with you, John, I saw this poetic human.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
wanted to pull that out of you. It's like when I listen to people, it's an intuition I have of what's right for them as well. And sometimes I just bring up these ideas and they sound crazy and they're out of the box. But it's like, try it. What do you have to lose?
I like that. And vision, mission, who are you, and remember it. And it's funny because you mentioned that book. My next question was, can you recommend a healing book or one on leadership? And I know you have a lot of personal mantras. I've seen them in action. Well, one thing about you, Leann, and for those listening, is Leann lives her mantras. And remembering who you are is how I would look at you as a friend in person and professional leader. But what is your mantra? Do you have one? Do you have a saying of your own? What is that?
Well, my two, I call them my hashtags more than my mantras. I guess that's just marketing. Make moments count. Make moments counts has sat with me for a long time. And the other one is nature's beauty heals, because I actually believe that.
No,
And that's a lot of what I've loved learning, with what we do at Gap and Institute and Anovi Health. It's all about peak performance, health optimization. It's data driven, it's evidence based, right? And what I love about it as well, and I keep pulling Dr. Gapin along sometime, is in showing that there's the science to everything with nature as well. And as science is advancing and everything we're learning about the human genome and how genes can be turned on and off, and how the whole body it connects. It's a interrelated system and everything works together. When it's working together well is when we are at our, best potential and at our peak performance. But all of that is also starting with advanced technology to be proven with science. Like for me, it's absolutely fascinating to see scan of a human being stressed, right? Maybe in traffic stressed. And then you actually put them on earth, on the ground, no shoes on, no rubber tennis shoes, right? And feet in sand. And there's less inflammation. And if inflammation is the root of all disease, and just 20 minutes in nature standing on a beach can do that to your body, that's science, that's proof, that's evidence. And it's a whole host of things that we do, but that part of it is what is so utterly fascinating to me.
That is incredible, and it is fascinating, that nature does heal and can heal. And you're right, Leann. Every time you're out in the woods, there's a certain calming effect. And again, I love the photography and the imagery that you've put together over the years to show that. And I always thought that was a really cool approach to viewing the world at a microscopic level, but also the 50,000 foot view as well. That's awesome. So how can people find out more about you, Leann? And if they want to learn more information about epigenetics or about the institute that you work for, where can they go to find that? If they're interested in buying one of your books, how can they get one?
Almost all the books are on Amazon. So I have actually an Amazon author page on there. Gap and Institute is gapandinstitute.com. Anovi is Anovi Health, or Be Anovi. Anovi actually means strength. We picked some very deep-rooted meaning to that name. And then naturesbeautyheals.com is everything about the epigenetic retreats that I really have a big tug to keep still building. It's not where I want it to be yet, but that calling is not going away. So I'll do something with that in the near future.
That's awesome. And Leann Spofford, my friend, she is an innovator. She is a leader in her own right. And I'm telling you, she has found a way to bring nature into the leadership model, and it works. And it inspires me and motivates me to look at ways that I can incorporate nature into my own lifestyle, because I agree with you 110%, Leann. that nature, the answers are out there. It's a big universe, and your expanded worldview is an inspiration to watch. Your mind is pretty nice. So thank you for being here on Well. You're in the pilot show, and I can't think of another person that I could spend an hour with other than you, right? So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome, John.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Well. Without you, we don't exist. We hope the men who joined us today learned some valuable tips to improve and not be ashamed to use them. Be the change, set the example, keep going, men. And for the women leaders out there, keep creating and keep helping us men to become even better men, more effective leaders. Thank you. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and lead.